You know, whilst a lot of the news seems to be dominated by discussions going on in Yankee Doodle land, that's America between you and me, talking about reparations for slavery, something that ended over 100 years ago or so. I can't remember the exact date. I wasn't alive at the time, and neither were most people today. But whilst that's all being talked about and argued over, it still exists. It still exists. Now, before we've sort of talked about, you know, right, there's modern slavery going on in Libya since the fall of Gaddafi. Suddenly a modern slave trade emerged in Libya, and that's fucked up. But you know what? Libya's a wacky country. What do I mean by a wacky country? Well, right now I'm in a wacky country. Because we look at other countries like, that's a wacky country. Why? Because they don't have what we have, do they? They don't have the same structures. Wacky countries, you know, they're like, there's bins are left in the streets and there's rats running around willy-nilly. I know London has rats, but it's not quite the same. They're not quite as brave as rats in wacky countries. Do you know what I'm saying? Don't have much of an education system. You got kids running around at like 4 in the morning selling goods. You know, 4-year-olds hassling you for money when they should be in bed going to school. Babies on the streets in the stinking heat. You know, wacky countries, bruv. Wacky countries. The ones we look at and go, God, sucks to be them. Yeah, wacky countries. So whilst this has all been going on, and whilst everyone's moaning and arguing about reparations and the effects of slavery and colonialism and what have you, this is going on. Whilst you're all yapping and yapping and yapping and yapping, people virtue signaling and all doing whatever, your fucking next door neighbour is probably a slave trader. Brilliant, isn't it? Isn't that great? You can spend all this time moaning and yapping and yapping and yapping and going, oh, look how virtuous I am, look at me, that's wrong. This is going on. What the fuck you been doing? What were you doing about this? I'll say, oh, I didn't know it was going on. Oh, didn't you? You didn't know it was going on? Well, that's not. Ignorance of the law does not count. Just because you're ignorant to something doesn't mean that you're not blameless. Okay? All right? And look, there's a bunch of honkies as well. Isn't that wonderful? We have white slavery. Were you looking out for the wrong type of slaves? Because that's all that's talked about. Slaves have to fit a certain description in order for you to realise they're a slave. Is that what it is? Is that why you didn't work out those slaves on your doorstep? UK slavery network had 400 victims. It's not like it was back in the day, all right, when everyone had slaves, everyone and their mother was a slave at one point or was a slave owner. You know, it's the history of time. But that shit was supposed to be gone. We're supposed to be living in an age where it's not going on no more. But here it is. 400 is 400 too many. As simple as. For goodness sake. UK slavery network had 400 victims. Look at them all. They could be anybody. They are like, that's just people. That's just people you see. This guy, that girl. You can just look at that person and go, I'm not thinking they're a fucking slave, but they are. There you go. Members of gang behind the biggest modern day slavery network ever exposed in the UK have been jailed. The biggest ever modern day slavery network. I like the way they call it modern day slavery. Look, I'm sure every slave of every generation probably had it a little bit better than the one before, like everybody does. So don't call it modern day slavery. Slavery is slavery. Right, okay. Police believe more than 400 victims were put to work in the West Midlands by organised crime gang. Could you imagine of what they told them when they came to the UK? Saying, oh, you're going to have this brilliant, wonderful life in the UK. And then you arrive in the West Midlands. That should be your first indication that things have got fucked up for you. Well, I'm not sure about here. Look crap. Look like, you know, your crappy former Eastern Bloc council estate in wherever you came from is probably better than Smethwick. No offence. Well, actually, you're offended already. I'm not going to apologise. They tricked vulnerable people from Poland into England with the promise of work and a better life. Oh, and they dumped them in Smethwick. But their victims were made to live in rat-infested houses and work menial jobs. It can now be reported after reporting restrictions were lifted. We do love reporting restrictions in the UK, don't we? 8 offenders, who police say are members and associates of 2 Polish crime families, have been jailed after being convicted in 2 separate trials of crimes including trafficking, conspiracy to acquire another to perform forced labour and money laundering. Oh, well, money laundering. Their sentences range from 3 to 11 years. Is it long enough? We don't know. The network collapsed when 2 victims fled the captors in 2015, because it's gone on for a long time, and told slavery charity Hope for Justice of their ordeal. The group of 5 men and 3 women targeted the most desperate from their homeland, including the homeless, ex-prisoners and alcoholics. Motherfucker. They were transported to the UK by a bus, but when they arrived, they were housed in squalid homes around West Bromwich, Smethwick and Walsall. If that is an indication of a better border control, I don't know what is. Like, you can't have that kind of shit coming over. Like what? Like, where are the checks? And they go, who are these people? Why is there 20 of them in the back of this bus? Forced to sleep in up to 4 in a room on filthy mattresses, and their wages farmed from bank accounts on payday. One victim said he had to wash in a canal because he had no access to water. The slaves were made to work long days at rubbish recycling centres, farms and turkey gutting factories, and given as little as £20 a week by their captors. Now here's the question, how the fuck are they getting a job at these places? I'll tell you probably, I'm going to hazard a guess. Some bullshit, twat-fested, no good for nothing job agency. The scourge of modern Britain is the job agency. It is. They're terrible. They're awful places. When we let job agencies decide every employee, I don't know if you've ever applied for all kinds of jobs. They're always through job agency, whether it's like your office job or you're working in a factory. It's always some bullshit job agency standing in the way, going, and you walk in the office and it's just full of absolute reprobates and it's going, hang on, how can I get your job? Because fuck me, you are crap. I'll do your job much better. These fucking job agencies, they wind me right out. They'll literally take anybody. I've seen it. People come in who can't speak a word of English and they'll just do it all for them. Where's the checks on where these people come from? Like, where's the human care? It's like, sorry, what? They don't care. Like, one guy will turn up. I'm assuming this is through a job agency. It probably is, and it's probably going on right now. I'm going to put it out there. Yeah, it's them. I'd like to find out exactly how they got the jobs at these places, how they were funneled in there. Because some fucking slave master will turn up with 20 workers and go, hello, I have all these. Got a factory, a shitty factory they can work in for fuck all wages. Oh yes, yeah, sure. Yeah, do you want to take a thing and then we'll get you done the paperwork and here's your goggles and your high vis. That's it. These motherless fucks. Oh, I can just see it happening. I just know it was them. I just know it was. It's just in here. Oh, you motherfuckers. Oh, I hate them. Anyway, because that's how else are you going to be working on? I mean, maybe farms, you could just turn up to a farm, blah 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 blah. But like factories, recycling centres, there's always a job agency for everything. And they got their silly, they're the gatekeepers for employment. And these people are fucking reprobates. They're the worst of the worst. This is what has made the country shit. It's the job agencies. They need to be got rid of. Like, just have certain job agencies. Like, there's just too many of them. Too many of them. These fucks sent them to the recycling centre. They are pawns in the game of slavery. No, they are contributors. They allow it to happen. But they were marched to banks and made to open accounts the gang had complete control over, basically. So the gang also claimed benefits in the names of some of their oblivious victims who ranged in age from 17 to a man in his 60s. They also claimed benefits on their behalf. Like, how is this allowed to happen? How has this happened? Like, really? One of the victims died while in captivity, and the gang removed all his personal belongings and identity documents so their plot could not be discovered. It is estimated the gang made more than £2 million between June 2012 and October 2017, which allowed them to lead a lavish lifestyle. If any victim complained, gang enforcers would humiliate, threaten or beat them. One victim was stripped naked in front of other workers, doused in surgical chemical iodine, and told the gang would remove his kidneys if he did not keep quiet. Judge Mary Stacey said it was clear slavery will continue. still continued in the UK, often hiding in plain sight. The convictions and sentences in full. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I mean, look, here's all these motherfuckers. Look it up for yourself. Police said Chowaniak was the respectable face of the gang, playing a convincing role in banks and employment agencies. I told you. I hadn't read all of this before. I told you there was an employment agency somewhere in the dark modes. Oh, yes, I'm sure they walked in. They didn't think nothing of it. Ugh. Anyway. They even had an insider at a Worcester employment agency. So I can't, some of these Polish names are too difficult for me. Chadakowicz, hey! Who signed up dozens of the victims. Nowakowski and Sadowski met the arrivals in the UK whilst Zemuda escorted them to job centre appointments and controlled bank accounts. The judge at Birmingham Crown Court described their trafficking conspiracy as the most ambitious, extensive and prolific modern-day slavery network ever exposed in the UK. A total of 92 victims were identified, but police believe at least 350 more were used by the gang and either could not be traced, had left the country, or were too scared to give evidence. This was trafficking and exploitation on a massive scale. This gang treated these people, their fellow countrymen, as commodities purely for their own greed. What they did was abhorrent. They subjected victims to a demi-life of misery and poverty. They forced them to work, and if they objected, they were beaten or threatened with violence until family members back home would be attacked. Some were told they would be taken to the woods to dig their own graves. One man who had an accident at work was forced back to the factory and denied hospital treatment, leaving him with long-term damage to his arm. Well, that's all nice and pleasant, isn't it? But, like, how all of it, like, to be claiming benefits on behalf of people, for them to get there in the first place, for them to be operating like this, it just raises too many questions. And these fucking employment agencies, like, there's so many questions right now. Go ask them yourself. Like, I mean, I ain't gonna be asking them. I'm just a conduit for this, all right? But this is going on. What like, in plain sight, as they said, in plain sight. Like, come on, man. Come on. Just Jesus Christ. Like, this is going on. This is wacky country stuff. This is for wacky countries. Blood on all your hands? No, I don't think. But yeah, fuck the job agencies. They need to be held accountable. I'm just saying.